All right. Hey guys, I'm Marcie, Billen. I got some jams going today because it's been a long day. So here we are. Hopefully you guys on Facebook will join me, and then of course all of my beautiful people on YouTube. So I'm gonna turn this down. You ever like drive in the car, then you have to, turn down the sound in order to hear your own thoughts? Well, that's how it works sometimes, right? So let me pause that music for us. So I hope everyone is doing really well tonight. I'm Marcie Billen, and I'm a resident of Norman, Oklahoma. And thank you for joining our weekly show all about the Oklahoma City Metro and specifically Norman. So I have a lot of housing stuff for you today, which makes sense because I'm a realtor and we like to talk about housing. And there's a lot of changes in housing and a lot of things going on in the market. So I definitely wanted to give you guys that update. So hopefully we'll have fun with this update as well, because sometimes the market can feel a little disturbing, right? So let's jump into some of this news. Please, please, please pipe in. If you have any questions, I will answer them for you as best as I can. So if you're curious about living in the Oklahoma City Metro or in Norman, you have come to the right place. All right, let's get going. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the SEC and OU moving to the SEC. I've never talked about football so much in my whole life. And I think maybe we don't have a realistic picture of what's going to happen because of the SEC and OU joining that conference. Don't make me name more than like 2 or 3 schools in that conference because I don't know. However, what I do know is the research that I've done on the economic, what's going to happen in Norman economically because of OU moving to the SEC. So here we go. Perfect. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you guys because sometimes that's just more fun. So let's get over here to this. Perfect. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I want it more like this. Oh, that's better. Now I can see you all a little better. Okay, so I read this article, and this is from the OU Daily, and the OU Daily is, of course, the student newspaper at the University of Oklahoma. One thing that they reported on earlier in this article is the rising rent prices and how much some OU students, are already struggling with rent prices. And I think that's been a common complaint across Oklahoma as, we hear, whoa, someone just yelled outside. We hear, that rent prices are going up, but people's incomes aren't necessarily going in the same direction. So that's really hard. But one thing I had been thinking about and was looking at was how other universities fared as they moved to the SEC. And fall enrollments is this first graph that they have here. So this is showing that enrollment is up for places like the University of Oklahoma, the University of Arkansas, Kentucky, and Alabama. Enrollment has gone up in these past 3 years. So Scott Martin is the president of, I believe, the chamber. Yes, I think so. Sometimes I get all their different roles mixed up in my head, but he mentions that what they're worried about, like right now in Norman, you're going to see a lot of apartments going up. And there's so many, like it's a different town, like campus is so different than when I went to school at OU. Like there was so much more open space back then. And now like they took a bunch of buildings down and made high-rise apartment buildings, which I'm sure are really nice. I haven't been in all of them. But what he's saying is that Norman needs to continue to build these to ensure that rental prices don't get out of hand. So they're trying to control the supply so that the demand doesn't go crazy with the housing. But here's what I see as a real estate agent. A lot of students end up not wanting to live in apartments. I think it's really good for a certain type of student, usually undergrad. And then once students kind of find their freedom and a little bit of peace and where they are, they want to live in a single family house, which is kind of where I see the rents going out of control, and of course the prices of those homes in general. I do help like parents who want to buy student housing for their students because it's a good investment, typically in a town like Norman, to go ahead and buy a house and maybe sell it 4, 5, 6 years later and have your student live in it. And that way you're not just paying rent. That's a really common thing for people to do here in Norman. And house prices and rent prices go up because of that. And single family homes are in high demand. I think that maybe people aren't looking at the differences. Like one person was saying in this article, like, stop building apartment buildings because we don't need any more, because they can't get rented. And like, it's kind of true, like they do have a higher vacancy rate. But when you look at the single family housing for rentals, like it can be a little bit difficult to find an affordable single family house to rent. That usually is like a place like Norman. A lot of people want to live in a house. Cool. So that's good. Another thing that we talked about previously, let me make sure there's no comments. Cool. You guys comment if you have any questions, have anything to say, or just say hi to me so I don't feel so lonely. Thank you. So, all right, back to what I was doing. A few weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, we started talking about the entertainment district that Norman introduced. So these were people from OU, like higher ups, and then people from Norman that introduced this entertainment district. And I know that there's going to be a vote on that and a lot of different parts and sections to that. But one of the parts that we're really interested in as real estate agents is that there's going to be a 75 unit affordable housing space at the northeast corner of Imhoff and Oakhurst. So I think I talked about that last week. That's that's the affordable housing. So it's going to be rent controlled. And then also that's federally funded. And then there's also building permits for more multi-family residential apartments, including one on McCullough, Deans Row, Monnet, and then 2 on Boyd. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's sometimes hard to get the people of Norman, and even people coming to Norman for school on board with living in apartments long term. So we'll see how it goes. Next, I wanted to talk about this website. This is also on Facebook. So I look to this source, normanokdevelopment.com, all the time. I love it. Oftentimes, if I'm wondering what's going on with a place, like with a section of town or a corner, this is where I go. I know that this information has been well researched. And so the last thing that was written about on this website was the Salad and Go that's going to be built on the corner of Main and Berry. Let's see, is there a front picture of that one? Yeah, I don't know if you live here in Norman, you'll recognize this little shop, and it had been for sale. So like this Salad and Go is what's going to be there. I'm excited for that because I do, I don't like drive-thrus. However, I do like a good lunch, and I think that will be really helpful. Plus they'll get so much from Norman High School as well because it's right across the street. So if you need information on Norman and what's happening, like they have sections on, North Norman, South Norman, East Norman, West Norman, and Central Norman. And if you guys don't know what all of those mean, I do have videos about that because we definitely have sections of town. And I think there was one other thing I was going to mention on this. I'll just let you guys read it. So I will put this in the comments on YouTube and also on Facebook. All right, let's see. Can't wait to visit Oklahoma. Yes, we cannot wait for you to visit Oklahoma. Let us know when you're coming. That sounds amazing because, yeah, we love to see newcomers here. All right, perfect. Thank you for commenting. All right, so next we have, I'm going to switch over to my market update. So I'm actually going to take this off the screen. I'm going to go like this. Yeah, you're welcome. Yay. one thing I've been talking a lot with my clients about, like what Miss D here is saying, is like how laid back and comfortable Norman can feel in Oklahoma in general, but like we love Norman because we live here. So I hope that, you know, Norman treats you well once you get here. All right, next, I'm going to dive into the Norman, Oklahoma housing update. And I wanted to do this because I think there's been some confusion about what's happening in the market and what it all means. So I'm going to do my best to tell you on like a microeconomic standpoint, meaning I'm not talking about the whole nation. I'm not even talking about the whole state. I'm going to talk about Norman because that's where we live and that's what we want to do. My cat's wandering around in here, so hopefully she won't jump up on the table, but who knows? So I mentioned before, I'm Marcie Billen, and I am a passionate real estate agent here in the Oklahoma City Metro. And I do really, really like bringing free content to you guys to help you understand what it could be like to live here or to update you if you already do live here. I don't know what she's doing over there in the corner. So if you find value in what I share, please hit the like button. That helps me so much. And of course, if you're planning to move to Oklahoma or planning to sell your house in Oklahoma, please give me a call and I would be thrilled to help you. So thanks so much for all of your support. All right, let's get into this housing update. So first up, listings. What is selling a house looking like in Norman right now? So we're going to think of the listings in Norman as a bookshelf. As you can see, I have lots of books behind me. And let's imagine that Norman has, 100 books on its shelf, and those are all the listings that were available in 2022. And then in 2023 rolled around and only 86 books were left because 15% went away. So I want you to think of it like that. We've had a misunderstanding, I think, about like supply and demand, but we still have a pretty high demand in the Norman market for listings. It's just that the cost of money, meaning that interest rates, have gone up just a bit. But there is a significant reduction in the number of listings, the number of homes being sold, because fewer homeowners are putting their properties on the market at this point. And then we come to pending sales. So pending sales have decreased by 14% compared to this time last year. So I'm comparing the first 9 months of 2022 to this 9 months of 2023. So like October doesn't exist right now because it kind of feels like it's still September to me. So the same thing, 100 books, and a significant portion of them, almost 20 of them, are gone, meaning that if 100 homes sold in 9 months in 2022 in the first 9 months, then only 80 to 85 homes sold in 2023 in the first 9 months. It's just a shift down in the market. So less activity going on in the market itself. And then we have to look at closed home sales. And this, I'm using more actual numbers. So last year, there were, in the first 9 months of 2022, 1,634 homes sold. 1,634. And this year, it's 1,292. So that's an 8 to 10 ratio, right? So less. There's less activity in the market. So days on market is my next point I wanted to bring up with you. So last year, homes were selling in about 17 days. That was the average days on market. And this year, in those first 9 months, because remember, we're comparing the first 9 months of 2022 to the first 9 months of 2023. And it is 35 days this year. So it's doubled, more than a little bit. And that's part of why you hear like people talking about the market being super slow. However, 35 days is also kind of normal. It's a pretty fast market, to be perfectly honest with you. It just feels really slow compared to the last 3 years of our lives. Perfect. And of course, the information that you really want to hear, and that is the information about prices. So everyone is waiting for prices to fall. And you just heard me talk about how Norman is going to the SEC. And one So that just means that OU is changing conferences from the Big 12 to the SEC. And the numbers that I'm so interested by are these. So, and I went over this last week, I believe, but in a normal game weekend in Norman, so that's 6 weekends a year, we get $10 million infused into our community because of games. And we have 128,000 people in our town. And then Tuscaloosa, which is where the University of Alabama is, has $30 million coming into their town. So they have $20 million more on a game weekend than we do. And I'm not saying it's going to change overnight because I don't think that's true, but I think it will change very quickly, quicker than we all want to imagine. So I just want us to keep that in mind, okay? So in terms of prices, the median sales price, and I'm using medians, not averages. Don't ask me to explain medians. Go Google it if you need to. So median sales price in the first 9 months of 2022 was $257,500. The median sales price in 2023 is only $500 less. So $257,000. Only $500 less. I'm not sure that prices are going anywhere super quickly, especially for affordable housing. Okay. One thing that we had in 2020 and 2021, and especially 2022, was one thing that realtors look at that I'm not sure that other people do as much in the same terms that we do, but we look at percent of list price received on a property. So last year, sellers were getting 100.6% list to sales price. So that means if your home was on the market for $100,000, which nobody's home was on the market for $100,000, then your home would sell for $100,600, right? And this year it is 98.7% of list price. So if your home was on the market for $100,000, then it would sell for $98,700. But there are not any homes on the market for $100,000. That is just my example. So I'm sorry, but that doesn't happen anymore. So what does this mean? So for buyers, you're going to have more options. We have less inventory, but you have more options, and especially when it comes to negotiating, because there are less buyers in the market. Okay. And then for sellers, it's really important to price competitively, because when you do that, you drive more buyers to the house that you're trying to sell. And I have still been in so many multiple offer situations, even this year, even with rates at what they are, which I'm about to tell you here in a second, what they are. So there are opportunities for everyone in this market. If you want to purchase a house and you can afford what it is right now, then you should. If you don't want to purchase a house and you can't afford what it is right now, then you shouldn't. Base it on your own needs is what I would say, of course, but whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, rates. So rates fluctuate every day. So today for government loans, this is what my lender told me, we're looking at 7.5% to 8.25% for rates. Now, what you have to understand is that almost no one gets a 7.5% or an 8.25% rate on their loan, because almost everyone is buying down points at this time. So the main way I see this being used, and one of the main opportunities I see, is with new homes. So most builders are willing to buy down points for you, meaning that like this money isn't coming out of your pocket. The builders will actually buy down the point. I'm seeing some points. I'm seeing some builders buy their buyers down into the 5s, and of course into the 6s. So this could be a possibility for you. And if you want to know more about what buying down a rate looks like, just comment and we'll get that worked out for you. And then, so government loans means like an FHA or a VA or any of the other FHA or VA backed loans. And then a conventional loan, which is not government backed, is going to be slightly different at 7.75% all the way up to 8.5%. So those are your rates for today. That's your Norman real estate market update. So stay informed, make wise decisions. Let me know if you need help, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much.